Okay, so we have a tank load of quite healthy looking fish. They're a little bit on the fat side because the owner is away, and the owner gave very strict instructions for how to feed, and it looks like those instructions were perfectly followed, but over time that has proven to be a little bit too much food. You can see here all that growth, that's just a result of too much food. We've also got a Geophagus down the back there, Braziliensis, who has had his fins stripped, presumably by this jaguar cichlid, which can be quite aggressive. Now, let's have a look at the food. Now, the food that these fish are getting fed is Danichi. Now, this is about the highest quality food you can get. Now, the thing about these super high quality foods is that if you feed them the right amount, you'll find that they're actually very, very clean, and you'll find you don't need to feed much of it at all. But on the other hand, if you go and overfeed them because they're very high in nutrients, then you'll find they pollute the tank very, very quickly. So these are a double-edged sword, because if you're feeding the right amounts, then the amount of food going in will be very low, the food will all get absorbed, and you'll find it very clean. If you overfeed it, the excess nutrients, because this is not full of filler and other cheap ingredients, this is all very high quality ingredients and very high in nutrients. So when you feed the fish, in general, you want to feed them what they eat in 30 seconds, make sure there's not anything left after 30 seconds, and then over time watch their belly, and if you notice them getting a little bit fat, you have to reduce whatever you're doing, and if you notice them getting thin, you have to increase whatever you're doing. So check the salinity, and it is not 0, so I'm happy with that. Now the KH is 4.5. It's lower than I want, but I'm pretty happy with that. The GH is 20, a little bit high, but I'm happy enough with that. pH is 7.4, a little bit low, but I'm happy enough with that. Phosphate's up a little bit, no big problem. The big ones are ammonia and nitrite, and they are low, so I'm not worried about that. The nitrate is on the high side, so some extra water changes after a sort of incident of overfeeding would be a very good idea. So there's nothing here that I'm urgently worried about, but increased water changes and getting out the excess food is what we want to do. And what I'm going to do now is clean the filter. Now, one of the saving graces of this situation is how big this filter is. This is a very big filter for this size tank. So buying a big filter is worth your weight in gold, and the quality of the food is worth your weight in gold. Because what I find is if you don't have very good quality food, then if something goes wrong, if your nitrate levels come up or anything like that, you tend to lose your fish. Whereas quite commonly, if you have good quality food, you get away with a lot. So it's very common that I'll go to someone's house and I'll test the water and it's terrible, and I find that they're feeding good quality food and the fish look fine. I can go to the very next house and all the fish are dying. I can test the water, it's much better than the last house, but the quality of food isn't there. So feeding the good quality food is half of fish keeping. Now, I'm very happy to see that there's at least a magnet cleaner here, because these things definitely make your life easier. But if it was up to me, the magnet cleaner I'd have is a flipper. Flipper's got a little razor blade on it, and I find the flipper just does an absolutely wonderful job for cleaning off your algae. Now, the other thing I'm just going to check on too is check whether that temperature is the case, because that temperature is a bit on the cool side. Now at this stage, I'm going to assume that is not the temperature in the water, and I will know by I will add a thermometer just to check. Now, I'm not a human thermometer, but when I put my finger in, it didn't seem cold. Now, the other thing is that I am a little bit concerned about the heater. It looks like there's one 300 watt heater in what's a relatively large aquarium. So if it was up to me, I would consider a backup heater. You can also get inline heaters now, but I'll just whack the thermometer and find if it actually is a problem. Now, when you clean these filters, it's really important you turn both these taps off before you start trying to open the filter, or you'll have for yourself a really wet fun time. Thermometer is saying 24 degrees, so I'm not too worried about that temperature at all. This thermometer is saying 19 for some reason. Temperature feels okay. If it was running cold, that would be a reason why the fish have not eaten as much, because their metabolism would have slowed down, but I don't actually think that was the problem. So this filter was actually cleaned just before the owner went away. And look at that. So basically way too much food's gone in there, even though the instructions were perfectly followed. So that really needed to be cleaned now. So with a good clean, we'll get this tank under control. But if in doubt, contact us. Because in this case, the fact that the person looking after the tank was alert enough and cared enough to see a problem and contact us, we're able to fix this before I think it'll be any issue. But this was very close to being a time bomb. So what I'm doing now is removing water from the aquarium to clean the filter material. And doing this in a white bucket is a very good idea because you can see clearly how yellow this water is. So the water being yellow just means that it's rich in what's called a Yulvin tint from high biological activity. So it just means you need to do a lot more water changes, because when you do a water change in a white bucket, you want the bucket to be white. You don't want the bucket to be yellow, or the fish are literally swimming in their own piss. One of the best things you can do is label your power cords. It makes life so much easier when you're rushing to plug and unplug things, when you know what they are. This is a very good idea. So what I'm doing now is cleaning the sponge in water from the fish tank. Now you can see how dirty this sponge is in a 20-litre bucket full of water from the aquarium, and cleaning one single sponge is making the water go from that yellow to like a dark brown. So this filter was very close to clogging. So the fact that we're doing this service now is very, very good. And I think has saved this aquarium is that this looks like real polyfilter. Now polyfilter is God's gift to fish tanks. This stuff here works so well in these sorts of situations when you get extra nutrients, and they literally save your aquarium. So I'm a big fan of polyfilter, and I'm going to put some more in as I put this filter back together. When I'm cleaning sponge, having 3 buckets is really useful. You tend to use a lot less water. So you wash it in that one to get all the real thick crap off. Then you put in that one to get the finer crap, and then you give it a final clean there. And you'll find that these 3 buckets last a lot longer than, let's say, 10 buckets normally. Now, because it's winter and this tank's already 24, so it's on the cooler side, I'm worried about taking out too much water. So I also want to do a big gravel clean. So what I'm doing is actually putting some water back into the aquarium again. The heater's in there, so I want to shock the fish less if I'm going to end up changing more water to get the same result. Because we don't want to shock the fish. We don't want to take heaps of water out and then put the water back in, especially if it's winter and there could be any fluctuation of temperature. The general nitrate, products like this, which offer aerobic surface area but not anaerobic surface area, produce nitrate. Whereas if you use more modern media such as marine pure, then the parallel denitrification in the marine pure will help to get rid of your nitrate. So if at some point you wanted to put an extra turbo in this filter, you could think about substituting the noodles for marine pure, because these filters are very large and very good for large amounts of waste, but they are basically a glorified sponge filter because they're just full of sponge. If you start putting more advanced medias like marine pure and polyfilter, you're going to get much better results instead of it just being a big glorified sponge filter. And this Seachem Prime is a very good water ager. It'll help to reduce stress, it'll help to detoxify nutrients, it'll help to provide body slime. It's a very good product, and if you're ever worried about your tank, give it a bit of an overdose temporarily, and it helps to detoxify most situations. This is a very good product to have on hand.